Let me ask you a real simple question that trips up darn near everybody who's ever kept chickens. How many hens do you actually need? Now, most folks, when they're starting out, they either grab a big old box of chicks at the feed store on a whim, way more than they'll ever use, or they get just a couple and then wonder come winter why they're still buying eggs at the store. And I'm here to tell you, both of them mistakes cost you money, one way or the other. Get it wrong on the high side, and you're feeding a flock of freeloaders and drowning in eggs you can't give away fast enough. Get it wrong on the low side, and you're running short half the year and still standing in the egg aisle. Neither one's where you want to be. So today we're going to fix that once and for all. I'm going to walk you through the honest egg math, the real numbers, not the fantasy ones off the hatchery brochure. And more important, I'm going to show you the 4 big mistakes that make almost everybody get their flock size wrong. Because once you see them mistakes laid out, the right number gets real easy to figure. By the end of this, you'll be able to sit down at your kitchen table and work out exactly how many hens your family needs. No more and no less. Grab your coffee, 'cause this one will save you real money and a whole lot of headache. But before we get to the mistakes, we got to lay down the foundation, and that's the base egg math. How many eggs does one hen actually give you? Now here's where the trouble starts, 'cause folks hear all kinds of wild numbers. The honest truth for a good laying breed, your Rhode Island Reds, your Leghorns, your sex lynx, your Australorps, is that a healthy young hen in her prime will give you somewhere around 5 to 6 eggs a week. Not 7. They take a day off here and there, that's just nature, so 5, maybe 6 good eggs a week per hen, when everything's going right. Now let me save you some grief right here on breed, 'cause this is where folks get starry-eyed at the feed store. If eggs are what you're after, you get yourself a proper production breed and you don't get talked into a bunch of pretty birds that don't earn their feed. Them fluffy, fancy-looking ornamental chickens are a delight to look at, I won't argue. But a lot of them lay 2, 3 eggs a week and call it a day. Meanwhile, a plain old Rhode Island Red or a sex link is quietly filling your basket. So if your whole goal is eggs, match your breed to that goal. Mixing in a couple pretty birds for fun is fine. Just know they're pets that happen to lay now and again, and count them accordingly in your math. Stretch that out over a year, and a solid layer will give you somewhere in the neighborhood of 250 eggs if she's a good production breed and she's healthy and well fed. Now, some of the heritage breeds and the fancy ornamental birds, they lay a whole lot less, maybe 150 a year, sometimes less than that. So breed matters a bunch. But here's the thing you got to burn into your head right now, and it's the root of every mistake we're about to talk about. That 5 to 6 eggs a week number is the peak. It's the best case. It is absolutely not what you're going to average across a whole year. And the folks who plan their flock around that peak number are the exact folks who come up short. So hold on to that, and let's get into the mistakes. All right, mistake number 1. And this is the most common one there is. Counting on peak summer laying all year round. See, in the late spring and early summer, when the days are long and warm and there's 15, 16 hours of daylight, your hens are just cranking them out. That's their natural season, and you'll be gathering eggs by the basketful, more than you know what to do with. And that's exactly when folks make the mistake. They look at that big pile of summer eggs, they count how many their birds are laying right then, and they plan their whole flock around it. Here's the problem. That summer peak might last you 2, maybe 3 months out of the year. It is the high water mark, and a hen simply does not lay like that all 12 months. So if you sized your flock looking at your June egg basket, thinking that's your normal, you have set yourself up to run short the other 9 months of the year, guaranteed. It's like buying a truck based on how it drives going downhill with the wind at your back. Sure looks great right then, But that ain't the whole picture. The fix here is a shift in how you think. You do not plan around your best month. You plan around your average. Or, honestly, you plan around your leaner months. And you let the summer be your bonus. When your hens are going gangbusters in June, that's when you've got extra to sell, to give to neighbors, to preserve. But your flock size ought to be set so you've got enough eggs in the slow season, not the fast one. Plan for the valley, enjoy the peak. Get that one idea right, and you're already ahead of most folks. Which brings us right into mistake number 2, and this is the big slow season nobody plans for. Forgetting all about the molt and the winter. So let's talk about what actually happens to your egg basket when the year turns. Come fall, usually, your hens go through what's called a molt. That's when they drop a bunch of their old feathers and grow in fresh ones, and it's a big drain on their body. And here's the kicker. While they're putting all their energy into growing feathers, they mostly quit laying. A heavy molt can shut a hen down for a good month or 2. So right there, every fall, you got a natural dip where your egg count can fall through the floor. And then on top of the molt, you got the winter itself. A hen's laying is driven by daylight. She needs somewhere around 14, 15 hours of light to keep laying strong. Once them days get short in the winter, dropping down to 9, 10 hours, her body naturally slows way down or stops laying altogether. It ain't that she's sick or something's wrong. It's just nature telling her it ain't the season to be raising chicks. So between the fall molt and the short days of winter, you can easily have a stretch of a few months where your egg production is a fraction of what it was in summer, or darn near zero. Now you can fight the winter part a little by putting a light in the coop to stretch their daylight hours, and plenty of folks do exactly that. But even with a light, the molt's still gonna knock 'em back, and some folks would rather give their birds the natural rest. Either way, the point is this. If you plan your flock without counting on this slow season, you're going to be mighty disappointed come November when the basket's near empty. This slow stretch is real. It happens every single year, and a smart flock size has got to account for it. And let me put some honest numbers on just how big that dip is, so it really lands. Say you got 6 good hens. In the thick of summer, them 6 birds might be handing you 30, 32 eggs a week. More eggs than a lot of families can even eat. Feels like you got chickens coming out your ears. But come November, with the molt hitting and the days short, them same 6 hens might be giving you 6 eggs a week. 6. Same birds, same coop, same feed bill, and you went from 30 eggs down to 6. That ain't a small wobble. That's your basket dropping by 80%. If you didn't plan for that, you're going to feel it hard. Right about the time of year you want eggs most, with all the holiday bacon going on. Now mistake number 3, and this one sneaks up on folks a year or 2 down the road. Forgetting that hens slow down as they get older. See, a hen ain't a machine that lays the same forever. She's got a natural laying life, and it follows a pretty clear arc. She'll start laying somewhere around 5, 6 months old. Her first full year, that's her peak. That's when she's at her best, laying strong. Her second year, she's still real good, though usually a touch less than that first year. But after that, it starts dropping off, and it keeps dropping every year after. By the time a hen's 3 or 4 years old, she might be laying half of what she did in her prime, or even less. And a lot of hens will keep on living and eating for 6, 8 years or more long after their good laying days are behind them. Now, there ain't a thing wrong with keeping an old hen around. They're good company, they still scratch up bugs, and folks get attached, myself included. But you got to be honest in your math. An old hen is eating just as much feed as a young one while laying a fraction of the eggs. So a flock full of 3 and 4-year-old birds is going to give you a whole lot fewer eggs than that same number of young pullets, even in the good months. This is why the smart move ain't to buy your flock all at once and just let them all age out together. 'Cause if you do that, you get a couple great years, and then your whole flock tapers off at the same time, and you're left with a coop full of retirees and an empty egg basket. The fix is to stagger your flock. Add a few new young birds every year or two so you've always got some hens coming into their prime laying age while the older ones wind down. That way your egg supply stays steady year after year instead of booming and then busting all at once. Plan for age from the very start, and you'll never get caught by surprise. All right, we've covered the 3 ways folks come up short. Now let me hit you with mistake number 4. And this one's the opposite problem, the one that quietly bleeds money out of your pocket every single day. Getting way too many birds, just in case. See, once folks learn about all them slow seasons we just talked about, a lot of them overcorrect. They think, well, shoot, I'll just get a big flock so I've always got plenty. And chicken math is a real thing, too. You go to the feed store for 6 chicks, and you come home with 15, 'cause them little peepers are awful cute, and what's a few more, right? Here's why that hurts. Every single bird you own eats feed every single day, all year long, whether she's laying or not. That feed bill don't take a day off. So if you got twice as many hens as your family actually needs, you are paying to feed a whole flock of extra birds for a pile of eggs you can't even use. And I promise you there's only so many eggs you can eat, give away, or sell before they start piling up on the counter and going to waste. Now sure, in the winter that big flock helps cover the slow season, but the rest of the year, you're drowning in eggs and money's flying out of your feed bin to do it. There's more to it than just feed, too. More birds means a bigger coop, more space, more water, more mess to clean, more bedding, and more chances for sickness or predators to find a target. Every bird adds cost and adds work, so the goal ain't to have the most chickens. The goal is to have the right number, enough to cover your family's needs through the slow season, with just a little cushion and not a whole barnyard more. Bigger ain't better with chickens. Right-sized is better. More birds than you need is just a slow leak in your wallet dressed up in feathers. And let me put a real number on that leak so you feel it the way your wallet does. Say each hen eats somewhere around 80-90 pounds of feed a year. Depending on feed prices, that's roughly $40-50 a year to keep one bird fed, give or take. Now that ain't much for a hen that's filling your basket, but for a bird you didn't need, say you got 5 too many, that's $250 a year gone feeding birds whose eggs you can't even use. Year after year, that adds up to real money. Money that was supposed to make your eggs cheaper, not more expensive. Folks get into chickens to save on eggs and then wind up paying more per egg than the store, just 'cause they kept way more birds than they had any use for. Don't be that fella. One more thing on the too many side that folks forget. Space. A hen needs room, both inside the coop and out in the run, or you get crowding, pecking, mess, and sickness. So every extra bird ain't just more feed. It's a bigger coop you gotta build and more ground you gotta fence. When you right-size your flock, you right-size everything, and the whole operation gets cheaper and easier to boot. So now that we know all 4 mistakes, let's flip it around and actually do the math the right way. And it all starts not with the chickens at all. It starts with your own kitchen. Before you can know how many hens you need, you got to know how many eggs your family actually eats in a week. And I mean really eats, honestly, counting everything. So sit down and think it through. Start with your breakfasts. How many eggs does your family eat for breakfast in a typical week? If there's 4 of you and you have eggs a couple mornings a week, that adds up quick. Then don't forget all the eggs you don't see, the ones that go into your bacon and your cooking. Every cake, every batch of cookies, every loaf of bread, every skillet of cornbread, meatloaf, breading for your chicken fried steak. Eggs, eggs, and more eggs. Them hidden cooking eggs add up to a whole lot more than most folks realize when they actually stop and count. And then think about whether you want extra. Do you want to have some to share with family, to sell or trade, to hand off to the neighbor who waters your garden? Add that in too, if it's part of your plan. So you add all that up, your breakfast eggs, your bacon and cooking eggs, and any extras you want to have on hand, and you land on a number, your family's real weekly egg need. Let's just say, for a nice round example, your family figures out you all go through about 2 dozen eggs a week, all in. That's 24 eggs. Hold on to that number, because now, and only now, we're finally ready to figure out how many hens it takes to hit it. Here's the formula, and it's real simple once you've got your weekly number. You do not divide by that peak 6 eggs a week figure. Remember, that's the mistake that leaves you short. Instead, you plan around a realistic year-round average. A good, honest working number for a decent laying hen, averaged across the whole year with the slow seasons figured in, is more like 3 to 4 eggs a week per bird, not 5 or 6. So you take your family's weekly need and you divide it by about 4 eggs a week per hen. So let's run our example. 2 dozen eggs a week, that's 24, divided by about 4 eggs per hen per week, comes out to 6 hens. So for a family needing 2 dozen a week, 6 good laying hens is your honest, year-round number. Now here's the buffer part, and this is what separates the folks who get it right from the folks who come up short. You take that number and you add a little cushion on top, maybe 1 or 2 extra birds, to cover the deep winter, the molt, and your older hens slowing down. So that family needing 2 dozen a week, instead of exactly 6 hens, they might keep 7 or 8. That little cushion is the difference between having enough eggs in November and standing back in that grocery store aisle. Let me give you a few more real-world examples so you can find yourself in here. Take a couple, just 2 folks, no big bakers, eating maybe a dozen eggs a week. A dozen divided by 4 is 3 hens. So with a bird or 2 of cushion, 4 or 5 hens keeps that couple in eggs all year, easy. Now step up to a family of 4, eating and baking their way through, say, 2 dozen a week. That's our example, 6 hens plus cushion, so 7 or 8 birds. And a big family of 6 that cooks a lot, going through 3, maybe 4 dozen a week. 3 dozen is 36 eggs, divided by 4 is 9 hens. So with cushion, you're looking at 10 to 12 birds to keep everybody fed year-round. Now, one smart trick for handling them slow seasons without keeping a giant flock: let your summer surplus pay for your winter. See, when your birds are going strong in summer and you got eggs running out your ears, that's the time to sell or trade the extras. A dozen fresh farm eggs brings a nice little price at the farm gate, and that money you make in the busy months can turn right around and cover your feed bill through the slow ones. So instead of keeping a whole mess of extra birds year-round just to survive winter, you keep a right-sized flock, and you let the fat months carry the lean ones. That's working smart. Your neighbors get fresh eggs, your feed bin stays full, and you're not feeding a barnyard of freeloaders 11 months out of the year to cover 2. You see how that works? You're not guessing. You're not grabbing a random box of chicks at the feed store, and you're not either starving for eggs or drowning in them. You start with what your family really eats, You divide by an honest year-round number, and you add a small cushion for the slow times. That's the whole formula, and it works for anybody, any size family, anywhere. And here's a little reassurance, because I don't want you fretting over getting it perfect to the exact bird. You don't have to nail it down to the last hen. Chickens are forgiven that way. If you come out a bird or two short one year, you just hatch or buy a few more come spring. They're cheap and easy to add. And if you end up with a couple more than you strictly need, well, them extra eggs make mighty fine gifts, and there's always a neighbor happy to take a dozen off your hands. The point of all this math ain't to trap you in some rigid number. It's just to get you in the right ballpark, so you start out close instead of way off in the weeds like most folks do. Get in the ballpark, then fine-tune as you go and learn your own birds and your own family's appetite. So if you're asking me what I'd do, here it is, plain and simple. I'd figure my family's honest weekly egg count, hidden bacon eggs and all. I'd divide it by about 4 to get my base number of hens. Then I'd add just a couple extra birds for a cushion, 'cause I'd rather have a few too many than come up short in the winter, and them extra summer eggs are easy to sell or give away to keep the neighbors happy. And I would not go hog wild past that, no matter how cute them chicks are, 'cause every extra bird is feed money for eggs I'd just be throwing out. And I'd stagger in a few new birds every year or two so my flock never all gets old at once. Right-sized, with a little cushion, refreshed over time. That's the sweet spot. So there you have it, the 4 mistakes that make folks get their flock wrong, and the honest math to get it right. It ain't about having the most chickens. It's about having the right number for your family, so you got fresh eggs all year without wasting a dime feeding birds you don't need. If this helped you figure your flock, do me a big favor and hit that like button. It truly helps the channel grow. And if you ain't subscribed yet, come on and join us. I put out honest, down-to-earth homestead advice every single week, straight from the farm. And you tell me down in the comments how many hens you running and how'd your egg math come out. I read every one. Now get on out there and take care of them birds. Take care, y'all.